Good evening, church family. I hope everyone's staying safe and having a great week. You know, we're here tonight for our Wisdom Wednesday Bible study, and it's a special occasion tonight. We got some special guests that we're going to be talking to. I'm Deacon Stephen Harris. I have the pleasure of being a moderator tonight and talking with our very own Pastor Clark. And then we're going to bring in some guests from the health profession. They're going to come in and talk to us about the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, what's going on, COVID fatigue, and all these key things. And what we have tonight is a collaboration event between the men's and women's ministries working together to put this on for you. So I don't want to waste any time. I want to jump right in with our very own Pastor Clark. I want to welcome you tonight. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight.
Steve, thank you. Pleasure to be with you and to have you moderating on this, our Wisdom Wednesday night. That normally I'm the one that is the chief presider, but it's a joy to have you to give direction to this night of information, pertinent information.
Absolutely.
I might add.
Absolutely. I got some big shoes to fill here tonight.
And
so.
listen, man, you can handle it. I'm so very proud of you. Always delighted to be in your presence, and I'm caught by your mask. What is that?
You know, Pastor, it wouldn't be a moment if I didn't come and can share my great fraternity with you. I know you're part of that other fraternity.
Yeah.
But I had to take a moment and pull this out the bag. I didn't have to dust it off very much. I just had to put it on. I said, if I'm going to be with Pastor Clark, I got to remind him and everything. So, and CJ and I, we talk about this all the time, Pastor. It's never been a time where I've been around you and I haven't laughed and everything. You're such a joy to be with, so I'm just happy to be with you tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The feeling is mutual.
Thank you, sir. So jumping in, Pastor, you know, we get the chance to see you almost every week. You know, you're standing up in this virtual environment, giving us a sermon. A lot of times you got a little audience, but it's not the same what you're used to and all. And we're looking at you giving all your heart and soul to make sure we're doing the right things and being good stewards and helping us guide our path towards being great Christians. But what's on my mind first is what's probably on everybody's mind. How are you doing? How are you doing in this pandemic?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. I'm doing fantastic. I perhaps haven't felt better. That COVID has made me more aware of my own health, and it certainly has created a different kind of focus for me with the people who are in my immediate context, as well as those that I serve as their faith leader. So I'm doing well, and I try to encourage everybody, more so now during this period, to make sure that they are doing their best at self-care.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, but thank you for asking. I hardly ever get asked that question, and I'm not lifting that for people to make that a priority to ask, but I'm the one that's always asking that of other people.
Absolutely.
But thank you for asking.
And I would be remiss, Sister Clark, how's she doing?
She's doing fantastic, yeah. And she's watching now, so I know she's got a grin on her face from ear to ear. But she is doing good, really good. The saints always keep her lifted up in prayer, and we see the benefits of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Pastor Clark, when you think about 2020, you know, here we are in 2021. You know, this all came on. Nobody, as they say, nobody trains you how to lead in a pandemic. I feel like you're doing a phenomenal job, you know, keeping us faithful, keeping us just focused in faith and connected with each other the best we can during this time. But if you had a chance to go back and talk to yourself before this started, what have you learned that you would share with your previous self to say, hey, think about this?
If I had to go back and if I could go back, we wouldn't be here. Let me just say that it would be mine to say that I wish we had been here, because there's been a lot of transitioning, literally, for everybody. Some persons who've been near and dear to us have transitioned to heaven. And then those of us who have lived through COVID-19 have found ourselves trying to live in isolation, trying to pick up this new norm of social distancing and wearing the mask and all of those things. And it's been a challenge, but it's been a good challenge. It's perhaps given all of us a discipline that we didn't know we had. It certainly made me more aware of how sensitive I need to be in ministry, sensitive in preaching. I looked over the last year, and I would not have made it had it not been for the people that the Lord has surrounded me with. I've got a great staff. The ministerial staff has just been outstanding. Our deacon ministry is the best ever. Give a shout out to Mike Patterson on tonight. Mike is doing a phenomenal job. We've had communion every fourth Sunday, howbeit on the parking lot, but nevertheless, we've done it, and our leaders have showed up for that to be in place for the people. The music has been at another level. All of the participants in the music ministry have really been phenomenal. So it's just no way that I can talk about me without talking about us.
Absolutely.
And that's been a learning. I mean, just a tremendous learning. I am more excited about preaching now more than at any period in my life, because my preparation, my level of preparation is different because there's nobody in here.
Absolutely.
And there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide. So every word, every text move, every thought in the text has to be worked through in your laboratory.
Yeah.
Before it's delivered to the people in this arena.
You know, Pastor, so many times we take for granted when we see you do that. We see you preaching, we do the things, and everybody doesn't understand that preparation that goes into that. And talk a little bit about that process for you, like, just how to start during the week. What do you do to get prepared?
So every Sunday when I sit down from preaching a sermon, I've already transitioned to the next sermonic presentation for our congregation, and so I really prepare in increments rather than search for something to preach. I've already done that work during the summer.
Gotcha.
And so what I do during the week is to start putting meat on that bone.
All right.
And my prayer life is a part of that. Having a quality staff of people around me that can move in a mature way in faith, where we don't stumble over gnats. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
And we're all focused together on things that's going to make us all better as kingdom builders.
Right.
That people who have been sick and those who have passed away, none of that has stopped through this season. But because I have the kind of help that I have, we can all get there together and celebrate how God is strengthening us to do what he's called us to do.
That's a
and
blessing.
It's a joy, too.
That's a blessing. That's so much of a blessing, and to see that work and to be under your leadership and to watch it. I'm telling you, as a person who's out in the world working, I'm mimicking a lot of what you do, because the order that you provide is the order that we mimic in those different places as well, because you got to be able to take it and apply it in both places, and you're doing a phenomenal job. Pastor, when you think about the fact that there's so much innovation that's going on with what we do, we got a choir that's rotating every Sunday. We have the communion on the parking lot that we've been doing. And now, you hear all this talk that we're potentially getting ready to come back and do some of these things. How do we balance the fact that a lot of families, when they wake up, for years their routine has always been go to church, do that, you know, in the mornings. And now everybody's doing it at their own pace and time. There's a lot of flexibility in it. How do we balance the flexibility and the fellowship pattern that's going to come back when we try to get all back together?
Yeah, I really think for those of us who love God, love His church, love to be in fellowship, it's just a matter of making the announcement, and the hopefully people won't lose their flexibility, but they will pack into this place for the fellowship. I think the concept of becoming flexible in COVID has really been a gift. It's a gift if we can see it through those lenses. It's a gift that we can now live in this space of being innovative.
Absolutely.
That when we get past this, and we are getting past this, we can take that same flexibility and apply it to some other areas in our life that will be necessary, even as it relates to coming back to the church building.
Absolutely.
But this has been just an awesome time for all of us who dare to see it through those positive lenses. That I speak to just countless number of people all the time who've just grown. I can hear it in their conversation that we started in this place being resistant to what was happening before us, but we didn't have any options.
Absolutely.
And then I learned how to talk and preach to a camera and not lose my focus. And then the people that the Lord has sent our way, even through COVID, who's united with the church, it's just been awesome. I have learned at a new level that His word will not return void.
Absolutely.
It will not return back. And for people who are listening tonight, I want to encourage you to keep your focus, that we, and you'll hear more about this later tonight, but as the vaccine is being made available, that gives us leeway to enter back into the sanctuary where we can be together. And then when that happens, we're going to come and celebrate like we haven't done in a year.
A good old family reunion.
A good old family reunion.
Absolutely. You know, Pastor, I know how much our youth means to you. Any encouraging words directly to them, because this is their vehicle. Social media is what they're on. It's a good opportunity to speak directly to them.
Yeah. So also, this is one of the things that have happened during this period. I have done a 5-6 series podcast with some of our young people.
All right. Okay.
And it hadn't been released yet. We're working on a release date, but I've gotten to know them. The questions that they gave me, I really thought that they were going to give me some soft pitches. They came hitting hard.
They threw you some curveballs.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! But it gave me an opportunity to see how brilliant they are, just brilliant. And so for the in the next several weeks, we want to gather them in this space and just let them have at it. Just let them have at it, so that they can give me and you some leadership.
Absolutely.
On how the culture is evolving and some of the things that we ought to do. In fact, that I believe that the next phases of where we go as a church is going to have to come from their brilliance.
Absolutely. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
There's so much energy that you gain from just working with our youth and going through that process. And thank you for taking that time and just for being a great leader for them. I know they're enjoying it as well and everything.
They're not like I'm enjoying them.
Absolutely.
I mean, just outstanding. And the groundwork for all of that was laid really by the relentless, focused work of Minister Preston Williams.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I just think it's just right to lift him and encourage him as he's encouraging them.
Absolutely.
But you're talking about brilliant young people. Oh my goodness. And I'm still mad at them, really, because they put me on the spot with some of those questions. But man, we were growing together. We were growing together, and it was just a lot of fun. So I think some of that's going to be released in the next couple of weeks, at least I hope, or whenever it's ready, and then you'll get a chance to see how they set me up.
Absolutely. So you're saying this podcast that
Yes.
they're going to have, and that's new for us.
Yeah,
Podcast
yeah,
going
all
through
of
this.
that.
So
Yeah.
more innovation.
Yes, right.
Shalom,
That's right.
we're growing, and
Yeah.
we're not standing still. And so we're moving forward and all. And I was talking with some of the staff about some of the numbers, or with the live stream, we're seeing the growth. People from all across the country are tuning in and everything. So our reach is really growing as well. So Pastor, thank you so much for everything that
Yes,
you're doing.
sir. Yes, sir.
Appreciate your leadership, praying for the best for you, and just love being around you.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
All right.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Steve. Yeah.
All right. We're going to bring in our next guest. So what we have coming is Dr. Lorraine Hendricks. We all know her very well. You see her in church. We've seen her do announcements. But, we got some talented individuals in our church. And what I love about our church, our pastor gives us an opportunity to bring what we do for a living, is to bring those skills forward as well. And also we have Anita Wilson. Anita Wilson is a nurse. She's doing great things in the medical practice as well, and just doing some great, phenomenal things. And one thing about Anita, she has her vaccine. Now, I don't have my vaccine. Pastor doesn't have his vaccine, but somehow she got her vaccine and everything as well. So let's welcome them both to the stage. How are you all doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. So
How are
Dr.
you,
Hendricks?
Anita?
I am doing fine.
Okay.
After receiving my injection, I feel great.
All right, you feel great after receiving your injection and
I do.
everything. So, ladies, we are going to have a conversation, and I want to make this a group conversation, of course. And we're going to talk about this concept of COVID fatigue, right?
Okay.
So we've all experienced it. COVID fatigue, quarantine fatigue, whatever you want to call it, is real, it's happening. What are you hearing about this? Dr. Hendricks, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, what we do know is that it is a widespread phenomenon that is going on as a direct result of being bombarded with so much of the stress related to the COVID-19 pandemic and all of the things that have come out of that. There's, as we all know, there's a lot of displacement. There's been such a massive loss of life that is a stressor in and of itself. Not only that, a disruption from the norm of life, things that we're used to doing every day. Children going to school, people going to work. Everything has had to reshape itself and be redone. And so there's been a lot of displacement. There's been displacement just in the sheer loss of work.
Absolutely.
Period, with business and the financial situation. One of the things that's interesting out of this pandemic is the fact that it seems to have uncovered some of the places where we are so lacking such organization. And so it has kind of exposed some of the things the government has not handled well.
Okay.
That we have been depending on, and that's been an additional stressor. So any of the things that tend to be a threat to us, even in our mind, provoke a response in our body. And out of that is this phenomena of COVID fatigue.
Okay.
There is a type of fatigue that goes on associated with the disease process itself.
Okay.
That's not what we're talking about here. Again, we're speaking in terms of the emotional drain and the emotional strain, the mental strain, which does have a physiological effect on the body as a result of all of these things that we face and look at and are bombarded with day after day for the past year.
Yeah. So much is going on. So I think about, a lot of people who, getting up to go to work is getting up and going into the other room, right?
Right.
The kids doing the exact same thing, going through that process. What recommendations would you have for a family if they're in that space to try to get out of that routine of trying to find some separation?
It's really difficult for a lot of people because a lot of it is contingent upon the physical space that you have access to.
Absolutely.
So for a lot of families, there just is no choice. We are in this limited amount of physical room. But some of the things we can do, I think, are to take breaks and to separate, to try to get some of the tension, and particularly when you're dealing with children, the locked-in feeling that they have, the feeling of isolation. And what is important is to try to get them out, to get some of this energy out.
Yeah.
I don't think that they have enough of a relief that they normally would experience during the course of a day. And it's more prevalent, I would think, in the younger children. You know, older kids can kind of manage a little differently and a little better.
Yeah.
But for the younger children who are used to running, or maybe having a recess, or having access to some physical gym or that kind of thing, they're being denied all of that. And so I think what some of the teachers in the school systems are trying to do is build in some physical activity while they're even at home.
Okay.
But what parents can do is take a break throughout the course of the day, different times, and just let them play outside in the yard. You know, put coats and hats on, let them run, let them ride a bike a while, let them get some of that energy out.
And that would be good for the parents as well. I mean, getting out, getting some
Absolutely, Steve.
exercise, and also
Absolutely.
family. You heard it here. We got to get out with our kids and be active in this space and everything. So I got a 4-year-old, right? And so I got a
Good luck.
14-year-old and a 21-year-old. I can't forget them all. So in the first phases of the pandemic, we kept her home, right? We was like everybody else. And I remember it vividly when my wife called. Well, she didn't call. She texted. She said, what do you think about sending Addison back to daycare? I was like, well, if that's what you want to do. And she was like, well, it's done. She's there. Because she had had enough and everything. So it was almost like it was time to get her. Either she's going to get voted off the island or she's got to go back to school. But so many people are going through those different things.
Yes,
and
yes,
and
they
I'm
are.
glad to hear you talk about ways that we can engage families to make that happen as well. Dr. Hendricks, what do you see, like if I'm a person, how do I identify symptoms for someone going through this COVID fatigue? What are some of the symptoms that you see?
For men particularly, one of the biggest symptoms is irritability. Men and women are different in how they display the affects of things like emotional distress or depression. Women will tend to cry when they're depressed or emotionally disconnected or disoriented. And men so much are not going to do that, but they will become very irritable. I'll tell you what's common for both genders is sleep disruption. Doctors are finding out that people are complaining a lot about insomnia.
Oh, okay.
So insomnia or sleep disruption is a big cue. Mood swings, moodiness, the inability to put up with things, you know, having less patience,
Yeah.
becoming snappy and more irritable in that way. Other signs include things like actual physical complaints.
Okay.
Headaches, physically feeling tired, overeating, overindulging in things, looking for a remedy or relief for the stress. Like now we're getting to situations where we're finding that people are drinking more alcohol. The wine purchase and wine and alcohol use is up.
Anytime you go through any depression, it seems like that's it. It goes through the roof. It never fails. and
That's
everything.
true. That's true. People are looking for relief.
Absolutely.
We know that drug use is up, as well as GI symptoms, stomach upset. People who have chronic pain have have an increase in their intensity of pain. More people are complaining about acute pain symptoms that are common. And so those are the things that are the most common signs that emotionally things are not well. And you know, the body is a mind-body connection. You know, one thing can't be disrupted without affecting the other. And so anytime the body perceives a threat or something that makes it feel diseased, we're wired, God has built us that we have things in us that get us ready for a response.
Okay.
And that fight or flight response is dependent upon certain chemicals that are released in the body in response to this perceived threat.
Gotcha.
And those chemicals do things like elevate your heart rate, increase your breathing rate, tension in your muscles, because you're either preparing yourself to fight the situation or to take flight from it. And all of these things really work in the body, on organs, and along with your nervous system to prepare you to take some action. It was never designed that would go on chronically, however.
Right.
That is an adaptive response that happens in us. And then once we've addressed the threat, we tend to come around and calm down and go back to baseline. When you look at a situation like the COVID pandemic, where we're constantly being bombarded with negative information, the threat of illness and death, our interaction with the loss of people in our families, loved ones, friends, loss of job, loss of money, kids are acting up, got no place to go. That is a continuous chronic threat. And so over a long period of time, the body doesn't have a chance to get a relief from that. And so what happens is yours and mine and everybody else's nervous system really gets into a situation where it's very overstimulated. We get hypervigilant, meaning we're always on edge looking, you know, it's like you just can't bring it down and calm down. This going on chronically has its effect on you long term. And so out of that, you get the development of things such as high blood pressure, chronic headache, muscle ache and pain, just generalized physiological discomfort. And so that's what we're dealing with when we talk about this whole scenario of COVID fatigue and the complications of COVID. And you know one interesting thing, Steve and Anita, that I was thinking about the other day with this, I said, you know, it's not a wonder that particularly in our communities, people of color, it's not a wonder that we don't have the highest rate of disease and the worst states of disease that are found out the latest, hardest to treat, and have the best outcomes. Because we are people who live under chronic fatigue.
Right.
We just live in a society, because of the way it is, that enhances the stress that we have to live under. So when you consider, even before a pandemic, the kinds of things that elicit that in our body, then it's really understandable why we tend to be sicker than the majority population in the country. I just thought I'd throw that in.
It's all good information and good insight, and we're all learning through this process and all. Anita, I'm gonna throw a question to you. I mean, so you're in a process. You're one of the fortunate. You got a vaccination. Why don't you tell us about your process? How I felt, you know, because there's a lot of fear factor around this vaccine and everything. So let's put some truth to it.
Okay, so because I am a nurse practitioner working in the healthcare frontline worker, I got the vaccine.
So you're trying to justify now why you got yours before everybody else.
Because you need me to be healthy so I can take care of our loved ones,
Absolutely.
our congregation, the community.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm not healthy, then who's there to take care of your family members, or
That's
our
right.
community and our family members? So we thank God that I got my vaccine.
Absolutely. I tease through that and everything, because everybody would love to trade places with you
Yes.
right now.
And one thing about when you just said everyone would love to trade places, there are some, believe it or not, that don't trust the science and don't want to get their vaccines. I recently participated at Christian Hospital administering vaccines. And a couple of things that I can say, you know, a lot of people are worried about the side effects of the vaccines, but when you do the study of the researchers and the clinical trials, the first thing you have to do is you have to trust the science. Okay, this didn't just come out. They didn't just automatically say, hey, let's make a vaccine. They have been in the process of making the vaccine, and they kept producing the vaccine while we were still in the clinical trials, hence how we can get this vaccine out quicker. It didn't just start. So, and then another thing, when it comes to the side effects of the vaccine, during my studying, only like 9% of the people who received the vaccine in trials are experiencing side effects that they are not able to do their activities of daily living. They're not able to go to work. Less than 10%. And I'm not understanding why we're so worried about the vaccine and the side effects. When I got the first vaccine, so common side effects first, I would say, sometimes you can get fever, chills, body aches, just feeling of...
It sounds like the flu a lot of times.
You actually get flu-like symptoms.
Right.
Okay? And you get pain from the injection site, just like the flu.
Right.
You just, rub it, it gets better. You can take pain relievers over the counter. When I received my vaccine, the very first one, I had some tenderness to the site here, and I went to work the next day. It was okay. I got a little bit of chills. What do? You take a Tylenol, right? So I went to work. It was fine. And then the second vaccine, and they say, like the 9% of the people, they experience the worsening side effects after the second vaccine. Two things as I work in the hospital, and they all know me because I'm giving injections and, I do rounds in the hospital. I'm like, how did you do? You'd be amazed at how many people say, I had no problems with I didn't even have tenderness to the site. They're here at work. Me, my second vaccine, I did have tenderness, and I said, you know what, I had chills, and I said it was like a 2% of feeling of chills.
Okay.
What did I do?
Painkillers.
I took some pain relievers. Later that night, the chills got a little worse because I stopped taking the Tylenol. What should I recommend? Take your Tylenol and your ibuprofen or whatever your doctor allowed you to take.
Yeah.
Just take it around the clock for the first 24, 48 hours. Stay hydrated. But one thing that I can say, I did get fever. I got chills. I was able to walk. I didn't get on the ventilator. Some of the side effects of COVID.
Okay.
I didn't suffer a stroke.
Yeah.
I didn't sit in the hospital alone.
Yes. Yes.
Not able to see my family in
Right.
isolation with strangers coming in my room, with a face shield on, a plastic gown and gloves and all, it's looking like,
It's a scary movie.
Yeah. So I'd rather have flu-like symptoms from a vaccine
Absolutely.
than be on dialysis or even death from
So-
suffering COVID.
So what you are explaining to us is that process of looking at the benefits of something versus the risks
Absolutely.
of something.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's very important. You bring up a very excellent point, does she not?
Absolutely.
In helping to make a decision about where you stand in this. Because even though we know that nothing in the world is perfect, of all the available options, when you consider the benefit of what you've gotten from the vaccine, just like you say, you know that you will not be in a situation where you will be on a ventilator or be fighting for your life.
So much
Is
of
that
is
what I'm
mind-
hearing?
And
Yes,
so
yes,
much of
yes.
that is mindset, taking the right mindset in to say, hey, I want to take this positive outcome of what could potentially happen versus looking at the risk and the negative
Yes.
and all.
And I see the risks
Yeah.
every day, and it's sad.
Absolutely.
And it's hard on your families. It's hard on the patient that's laying there. And we worry about severe reactions. There is a severe reaction that we have not, even the whole time I was administering the vaccine, we never had to use the EpiPen.
Okay.
What's a severe reaction? Anaphylactic reaction, where you have swelling of your face, swelling of your throat where you can't breathe, eyes are swollen, and what we do, we give an injection with EpiPen and we call 911. Now, if anyone ever, it's rare that we've seen this, but if anyone has ever experienced, we call it anaphylactic reaction, I would recommend not getting the second dose. But it's rare that we've seen that. Some people go on TV and say, oh, I had a stroke. Or, oh, I think she had Bell's palsy or something. But did you have Bell's palsy because of this injection, or did you already have symptoms of Bell's
Yeah.
palsy and got the injection? Now you're going to blame it on
Yeah.
the COVID. I'm not seeing that in my experience,
So
nor
Anita-
in my research.
And Anita, what I'm hearing you say is that you're encouraging our people, right, to get out here and do the right thing. If you get the opportunity to get this shot or these shots, take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it.
Now, can you talk a little bit about this first dose, second dose? I think there's some confusion. Like, what is the timetable in between those for most people?
So you get the first dose, and about 15 days later, you get the second dose, okay? And that's it. Now, you don't want to wait too long, because the first dose, we say you're like 50% build up an immunity. But you need that second dose within the right time frame, so you can go in and get up to 90% protection.
Gotcha.
And that's the goal. And it doesn't mean you stop wearing your mask. It means keep wearing your mask. Can you get it? No. The research is out, and they're still studying, but you may be able to spread it and not be infected by it.
If I get this shot, I'm gonna get a mask that says vaccinated, and I'm just gonna go around. and
That's a
everybody-
good idea.
Yeah, that's
a good idea. I
I'm
haven't seen a
proud.
mask that says that yet
Hey,
either.
when I get my
They
shot,
don't.
you'll see one. Trust me.
We have stickers, but the sad thing is our community who are affected the most because of Dr. Hendricks was talking about pre-existing illnesses. Our community are affected the most, but our community is not out there trying to get the vaccine.
Absolutely.
I don't understand that. We need to get protected so we can come back to church. So we can protect ourselves, protect our families. Who wants to be on the vet? Raise your hand.
Can you talk a little bit about, the tiers and like where do people fall? Like you talked about you being a frontline worker, of course, you're first to come. What do you know about the tiering system that you can share with people tonight?
Well, the tiers are set up so as far as priority. Who is at most risk and who should get the vaccine first?
Okay.
So we know that children are not really getting a big negative impact with this virus. So the children, Pfizer has made one, and Moderna also has a vaccine for ages 16 and older, and the other one is 18 and older. So we know that they're not affected so much. So later on throughout the year, hopefully we'll get them vaccinated. But the ones that are at risk of suffering the worst, so now we have Tier 1B.
Okay.
And those are people who are over age 65 or older.
Okay.
Or with pre-existing illness, diabetes, high blood pressure, suffered a stroke, some with mental illness, morbid obesity, a BMI greater than 40, our fire workers, the police, those type people are now to get the vaccine. Sign up for the vaccine.
Gotcha. So, Dr. Hendricks, as you hear this, what comes to mind from you to inspire people to make sure they're going down this path when you think about the people who are available to get it and all? When I'm hearing Anita talk about people who can get the vaccine won't, of course, it kind of hurts my heart a little bit, but what goes to your mind as a doctor in the field in dealing with this?
Well, when you consider over 400,000 people have actually died because of the COVID epidemic in the United States alone, that doesn't take in globally the number, but just in our country. That's a lot of deaths. All of us were exposed, and we were shocked, and we were just speechless when this began to unfold in the early course of this disease, and we would see bodies being put in refrigerated units, and that there were not enough ventilators for people, that we just weren't ready. It overwhelmed our healthcare system. It overwhelmed us. We didn't have anywhere to go. People just died. And you can't erase that. I can't really speak, time won't allow us to speak to the back and forth of if it's real, if it's not real, but the numbers of deaths speak for themselves.
Absolutely.
They just speak for themselves. There have never been as many people who have died in this country as died in the year of 2020.
Okay.
You just can't erase that, no matter what you think about it. It's true. And so consequently, like I said earlier, this may not be the best that will come out of this because research continues to go on daily. There are a lot of moving parts in this. What we say today may change tomorrow. But for now, it's the best defense that we have.
Absolutely.
So I'm encouraging people to really consider it, at least consider it. And if you are at a place where you are convinced that this is not the right thing to do, the question to ask yourself is, what am I basing my decision on? Because mostly I'm finding that people are basing their decision on emotion and not on fact. Now, as far as our community is concerned with people of color, we know the history of how we have lived in this country.
Absolutely.
We know the history of how we have been targeted for some very unscrupulous type of things that have been done in the medical community in the past. We're not disavowing that, we're not denying that. But even today, we know that one of the leading developers of this vaccine is a woman of color, an African-American woman, Dr. Corbett, am I right?
Yeah.
She was on the forefront of developing this. And I think now that the way life is, far from perfect, we do have those who are advocates for us and what's good for our community. And we don't want to talk ourselves out of something that will benefit us based on emotion. So what I tell people is do your research. Go to the CDC website, go to the other places that are available. You can go to actually the website of Pfizer, and Moderna and these other pharmaceutical companies, you can actually read the information for yourself. But your number one, I think the number one advocate that will help us all to understand is your primary care doctor.
Yes.
Call your doctor. Your doctor knows you. Your doctor knows all of your health challenges. You have a relationship. You have a trust there, or you wouldn't be going to him or her.
Absolutely.
So get their opinion. Ask them first. And then if you still have some reservations, ask them to help you work your way through making a good, informed decision.
That's so very important to have that concept, to have that knowledge, and have those resources available to you. Anita, as looking at the vaccine, Dr. Hendricks talked about some of the companies. You know, you hear people talking about, I want the Johnson & Johnson. Does it make a difference? Should I just give me the vaccine? I just want a vaccine.
Get the vaccine, please. Get the vaccine, because you don't want the vent.
Right.
So get the vaccine,
That's a good comparison.
unless you want dialysis.
Right.
Vaccine or vent, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the vaccine for 100, Alex.
Yeah, there you go.
Just give me that.
I think number one is you have to trust the science, and you have to trust the scientist, and you have to trust the research. Now, if you have a reason why you don't trust anything science, then maybe you should get it. You should get it. You should trust the scientists, and you should trust the research. I received the vaccine. I made it.
Right.
We know a lot of folks who didn't have an opportunity to get the vaccine,
That's
and we've
right.
been to many funerals.
Right.
Yes.
And it's time now, even starting the vaccine, even at the hospitals, BJC health systems, we are seeing less mortality with this vaccine, and of course facial coverings and all. You know, it's getting better in the hospitals, and the vaccine has something to do with that.
Sure.
So as we think about, you know, some of the myths that are out there and those type, you hear all the crazy things. You know, if you're on the internet, you're going to hear something crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there a way we can dispel some of those myths tonight? Is there anything that you know that you've heard, Dr. Hendricks, that, you know, that's, you know, baloney, don't pay any attention to that? Are you hearing anything that the people need to know about on that space?
First of all, let me share this with you. Stay off the internet.
Yeah.
Don't go on Facebook looking for information about this vaccine.
WebMD?
No.
Listen, just don't do it.
The
Just
WebMD is
don't
like the
do
number
it.
one doctor for most people. They go
Yes.
and diagnose themselves and
And
everything.
basically, you can trust sites like WebMD for the most part. The American Academy of Family Physicians has websites, you know, Harvard Medical, that are accessible to the general public. And
Gotcha.
you can get basic information. The CDC has a website that's open it gives you more information than you can read.
Gotcha.
So there are some places to start, but there are definitely some places that you just need to stay away from. You know, one of the things that has been circulating, and I've heard this too, and I've seen on TV where they've talked to people who say this. They're not going, and I heard it on the radio as well, they're not going to take a vaccine because they know there's a microchip that the government is putting in, trying to trace and see what's going on. And
That's
so
a
my
big one.
so my question to them is like, do you not know that the government already knows everything about you already?
Right.
You know, whatever they would want to know, they have access to knowing.
Mm-hmm.
What would it benefit them to put a microchip in you? For what purpose? There's just no such thing that exists in terms of this vaccine.
So we did it here. We dispelled that myth and everything.
But you know what? Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We're worried about the microchip going in our body, but you carry a cell phone around all day long.
There you go.
We know exactly what you're doing. We know where you're
Exactly.
going. We already know
Right.
because you share your location
All your
and
business.
you're set, right? So we already know where you're going. We already know where, don't you watch 911? We
So,
know.
It's all out, all that information. It should not prevent you from going and making sure you do the right thing.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about the rollout plan. You know, you're hearing the stats, you know, where Missouri stands and some of the other. Can you tell me, like, what's going on with the rollout?
Well, I just think that they weren't prepared.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The things that could have been put in place to have made this process smoother, unfortunately, got waylaid by politics. And we all know that. It's just the truth. And the steps that could have been taken that would have made the process a lot smoother, they just weren't into play. You know it has to be an organizational issue because when you look at other countries, such as Korea, those people were able to do and roll out and take care of. And unfortunately, you know, we've suffered from that, but now with a change, hopefully in this new administration, and this thing being taken and looked at from a different perspective, and the enormity of the job being appreciated better,
Yeah.
and the fact that the American people want this being appreciated better, I'm just hoping that the supply can be ramped up and can be distributed to us so that we can get it out, because people are definitely interested. You know, people are signing up and trying to get through to websites. And
So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what can people be doing today that gets them in position to be able to be considered and get their vaccine? What are some of those things?
one of the places you can go to is mostopcovid.com website. It will link you to another website under missouri.gov, and you can actually enroll right there at that site. I did it. You can go to the BJC website.
Mercy.
You can go to the Mercy website. You can go to SSM Network website. And all of those places you can enroll online. You will more than likely be put on a waiting list, and they will contact you when they have the actual vaccine available to distribute to you.
Okay.
They'll notify you. You give them your email address or phone number. They will contact you, bring you in. We also have heard that the government is in the process of negotiating with these large pharmacies, such as Walgreens, CVS, what's the other
Walmart.
Walmart.
one? Walmart.
Today we heard about that. Walmart.
Walmart, for people to receive those. They still have the massive distribution centers for giving them. We haven't had any of those much in our area, but a lot of states do have them, and that's another option. So we just have to be patient with the process. We really do. And we just have to take the steps, and when your opportunity comes, take advantage of it.
So as we talk about vaccine, I don't want to lose sight on testing, right? Because a lot of times people think, oh, we're on to the next thing. It's still important to go get tested and go through that process. Can we just emphasize anything you want to stress from that perspective as well?
Absolutely. Particularly if you are in a multi-generation household and you have increased risk of exposure for whatever reason, if you have to leave the house to go to work, if you work and you're in the general public, you're around other people, you're symptomatic, or you have known contact with someone who has or has had known contact, it's always better to know. It's better to know and to get tested.
Yeah, and if you're going around, let's say we totally recommend that you don't do this, be around a large gathering, but if you're going to go around a large gathering, grandma's birthday party, why don't the whole family get tested before going?
Good idea.
You can do it, you know, and then once you get tested, you kind of quarantine yourself, you know,
Yes.
to your home, and then go hang out with grandmother for her 80th, 90th birthday party is what I would
Absolutely.
recommend.
And so every time you say something, I take it to that next phase. So you talk about quarantine, right? Let's educate people. What is, because everybody's idea of quarantine seems to be shifting now that we're getting this fatigue and things like that. What is true quarantine? What does that look like?
Isolating yourself. It's as simple as isolation. If you live in a house with other people and you need to quarantine, you need to go to a place in that house where you can be, I hate to use the term shut away, but actually in a place away from direct contact with the other occupants of the house.
Right.
You still need to go through the routine of hand washing, sanitizing surfaces, wearing masks. You know, I like to say physical distancing, you know, as we've been instructed to do. But quarantine truly means putting yourself, self-isolating for the benefit of the other person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's so important that we keep stressing these things. We're not out of the woods. We're here. We do have the vaccine. Things are happening. Everybody doesn't have it. Dr. Hendricks, if you were looking out to the future, when do you see this kind of coming to a head? Not to put you on the spot, but just if you're, from a medical perspective, if you're looking out, when can we anticipate seeing some progress in this phase?
You know, I would be happy if we could see some significant process by even late summer,
Okay.
fall. I think it's going to take the majority of this year, honestly, to
Okay.
get this a little corralled in a little better. And see, one of the things that happens, one of the tricks that happens with COVID fatigue is that we get to a place in our mind where we say, I've just had enough of this. I'm not doing any of this anymore. And where people were being compliant wearing masks, now they're just fed up.
Right.
And they don't want to continue to do the little things, so you blow it off. And every time that we do that, we go in a circle of starting all over again from square one. So all I can say is just stick with it. This all works to do what it's designed to do. But if you add a layer of protection with the vaccine, if you add a layer of protection with, you know, the significant spacing between you, all of it matters.
Absolutely.
All of it matters.
How about you, Anita? What would you add to that?
I would totally agree with Dr. Hendricks. Because I already know, you know, from the research and studying, we're thinking about hopefully getting the vaccine out to children late 21. So if we keep doing everything that Dr. Hendricks said, I'm thinking the same thing, late summer, and it might have to go into fall. But that's if we do, you know, what we are instructed to do.
So I hear all these people in my ear saying, but I got a vacation that I want to take this summer. I want to go do these things. Are we saying don't do those things? Or are we saying if you do those things, you have to do what? What is your recommendation?
My recommendation is that, first of all, you have to use common sense.
Okay.
Secondly, you can do things, but maybe be willing to modify.
Okay. Okay.
Be willing to modify.
So give me some examples.
Make some adjustments. If you were going to a place where you know there are a lot of people gathering, you might need to step back away from that.
Okay.
You know, you are safe if you know everyone in your household is safe. You, your 3 children, your wife. You guys could take a mini vacation by yourself as opposed to with the whole family reunion crew.
Now, see, you just put me on the spot. My wife is watching now. When I get
good.
home, something's going to be booked. Thanks, Dr.
But you,
Yes.
you could do
Well,
that,
I
though.
understand what you're saying.
But
Vacation.
just be willing to make some modification. You know, you can't hang out with everybody in the family because you got family coming from California and Florida and Texas and everywhere. But you can do a mini vacation with your family
Absolutely.
that you live with and know that you all are safe and well before you go. And then when you get to your destination, take the precautions that have been given to you. You know, you can't hang out at the clubs dancing, doing karaoke. You know, maybe you can take your kids and go fishing. It requires just doing different kinds of activities.
It's like you're reading my soul because I'm like a karaoke king over here.
Are you really?
You know, that's for another
Okay.
topic, another night.
All right.
You can do that at home.
Absolutely. We can do karaoke.
You
and
can.
everything.
You
But after I
can.
do it, everybody wants to quarantine. Go figure that, Mary. So, but just what you're saying is just take those precautions and try
Yes.
to do things a little differently and keep your circle a little closer.
That's
you know?
right.
What
That's
about,
right.
like, Anita, getting on a plane and going through that process? Could you help people understand what we can do in that space?
Yes, if you have to get on the plane, I would say wear your mask, maybe wear 2 masks, double protection. Either wear your goggles or a face shield.
Okay.
Okay, wash your hands. I wouldn't say put on gloves because people have this misconception if you have on gloves, you're safe. Gloves, if you're not trained to wear gloves, you just transmit infection and you you touch your face, you clean off your seat with hand sanitizer or with disinfectant, then you scratch it. Don't wear the gloves, use hand sanitizer. You know, if you can get on the plane and not sit right next to someone, that would be great. But just go in full gear and don't take it off, even though I know you want to eat the little peanuts on the plane, don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. Keep the mask on, face shield, goggles on, and stay to yourself as much as you can. When you get off the plane, grab your luggage, hand sanitizer, hand sanitizer, hand sanitizer. Go to your destination, hopefully, and like Dr. Hendricks said, don't go to the club. Don't go hang out in a big crowd. Sometimes we have to do what we have to do.
Right.
But just do it safely and follow the guidelines, because I heard someone say, oh, those masks don't work. They do work. There are many times I've been at the bedside with one surgical mask on, not knowing the patient had COVID, and I'm saying, take a deep breath. You're doing okay? And the next day he's in ICU
Wow.
with COVID, and thank God I didn't get it. Why? I had on a mask.
Right.
Masks work. Wear your mask. If you're going out of town, wear your mask. Wear your face shield. Wear your goggles. Do it safely.
Absolutely.
I can confirm what she's saying because I've seen several patients myself who I didn't know at the time were really COVID positive. And if it had not been for the fact that I was geared up, I would have likely have caught it. And at the time, they were asymptomatic.
Oh, wow.
And so there were so many asymptomatic people in our community. They weren't getting tested, they did not know, and they had no signs, but they were passing the disease. So we do know that the PPE, the masks, they work.
That's so important. So, you know, this is a big weekend for a lot of people, right? Valentine's Day and all these things. And you're hearing, I think St. Louis County's open up 50% restaurants and those type of things. So people, you know, when you hear that, you start to think a little bit like, maybe it's okay. Do you recommend, like, taking advantage of these things, or maybe should it be one more holiday indoors and kind of celebrating with the families?
I would take it slow personally.
Okay.
I'm one who'd rather be safe than sorry.
All right.
So we can do a Valentine dinner in another kind of way.
All right.
And so many people are just ready to be out that you know that they're going to take advantage. You know that they're probably going to be crowded, you know, to the limits that are allowed.
Yeah.
But still, anytime you have more people, there is more risk,
Right.
more likelihood. And remember, in a restaurant, people are taking their mask off to eat and talk and drink.
Absolutely.
It is one of the highest places, one of the places of the highest transfer of COVID that you can be in.
Absolutely.
So you want to just keep that in mind.
So the Lord works in mysterious ways, because it's supposed to be like 3 degrees this weekend, so most people are gonna sit at home anyway and everything. Just try to keep everybody safe as much as possible and all. Final thoughts as we come to a close. Dr. Hendricks, I'll give you the first.
Well, I'm happy to have this opportunity to share this. I hope that as we kind of look over what and work through what's right for us, that we really won't base our choices on emotion, that we really will take the next step to find out some accurate information that can be trusted. And again, I encourage people to start with your doctor, start with your primary care, start with who you have a relationship with and trust.
Gotcha. Anita, how about you?
All right, and thanks for allowing me to be here. Trust the science. Okay, do your research, trust the science, wear your mask, social distancing, get the vaccine. Always know you have options, and it is your option. And call the CDC and call your health departments to figure out how can I get a vaccine. Apply to all of the different places to get your vaccine until you get it. Just think about, what would you rather have? Would you rather have the vent, kidney disease on dialysis, or would you have flu-like symptoms from a vaccine? Think about that and get vaccinated.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for all this great information, for your time, your energy, for your expertise tonight. I've had fun being with you all and having this conversation, and I've learned a lot myself and all. Dr. Hendricks, if I have a vacation book when I get home, I'm calling you. I'm telling you. I know how my life works and everything. And so
It has been fun with you. Thank you. You've done a wonderful job.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Wonderful.
And to our church family, thank you all for being with
Yeah.
us for this Wisdom Wednesday. I want to thank Pastor Clark for his time and setting vision and sharing the stage with him tonight. You heard it
Yes.
from him, how he's doing well, he's looking forward, and what he's learning through this process. Stay tuned next week. There are going to be more conversations as we move this conversation forward to really just doing the best we can for our community and pushing us forward to being our best selves for each other. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.